أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and thanking Him. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the countless blessings that He has given us. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessing of life, for the blessing of health, and for the blessing of wealth. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessing of family. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to come together to remember Him and to celebrate the opportunities that He gives us. On behalf of myself and on behalf of Muhsen and on behalf of Shaykh Umar and Shaykh Ali, the other shuyukh of this trip, I want to welcome each and every single one of you to this gathering. There are few honors in life that are greater than the one that we are celebrating today. The greatest honor that Allah gave to each and every one of us is that He allowed us to be from the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That He allows us to wake up each and every single day believing in La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the belief and testimony of there being no one worthy of worship but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His final prophet and messenger. But when we celebrate this gift of hidayah, there are moments in our life where we seek rejuvenation. There are moments in our life where we seek inspiration. There are moments in our life where we seek motivation. And one of the greatest resources of this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invites His servants to His home. And amongst all of His homes, and each and every masjid is a house of Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invites you and I to His most sacred home, in the most sacred of lands, to do the most sacred of actions. Allahu Akbar. Let's take a moment to really grasp the reality of that occasion. You see, the word Umrah is translated in the books or explained in the books as ziyarah or visitation. Now if you come to my house at 12 o'clock in the morning and you just show up and you ring the bell and you're like, Tariq, I come to visit you, I'm like, bro, go away, like don't bother me right now. This ain't the time for that right now, right? But yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above 7 heavens has written that you and I be invited insha'Allah ta'ala to visit His most sacred home. My dear brother and sister, if you ever doubted Allah's love for you, if you ever doubted your place with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you ever doubted whether you have a close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then know that Allah has insha'Allah invited you to visit His most sacred home. And that is something that never fails to give me goosebumps. Because when we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inviting us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not invite a person unless He has a level of love for them. So when we talk about being invited to Allah's home, this is an honor that each and every one of us must grasp. Let me be real with you for 30 seconds. Forgive me for this. My dear brother and sister, you are not going for Umrah because you paid X amount of money. You are not going for Umrah because you have a blue passport or you were able to get a visa. You are going to Umrah because Allah gave you permission to visit His house. That is why we are going. And once we grasp that, the exact moments that you are there, every moment that you are sleeping there, every moment that you are eating there, every moment that you're pretending to laugh at my lame jokes when we're there, every moment that we're going through tours together there, every moment that we're sitting in an airport, it becomes an act of ibadah, it becomes an act of worship. And it is a journey that is one that begins as a physical journey. It is a journey that begins as one that consists of thousands of miles. But it is a journey that is truly manifested when the heart and the soul migrate from where they are now to being closer with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But before I continue on this little rant about how huge this is, I want to take the opportunity to share with you a little bit about who we have joining us. Obviously, my name is Tariq Musleh. There's nothing much to remember about that. I'm just a short, fat Palestinian kid from Chicago, grown up and raised in this community, alhamdulillah. Very blessed to be a part of this community, and ended up through time studying in Medina, alhamdulillah. When I was in Medina, I was able to meet 2 brothers who are literally amongst the pillars of my life after my parents and my family. So I want to take the opportunity to hand over the mic to Sheikh Umar Hadrouj, who is older than me. He's my elder. He is my mentor, my older brother, my friend. And I want him, one of more exciting than going to Umrah is going to Umrah with your loved ones to perform something that's beloved to Allah. So I'm going to hand it over to him, inshallah, to share some thoughts with Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man wala. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri, wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli, Allahumma shrah sudurana wa yassir umurana waftah alayna ya fatah ya alim. Just a clarification, I knew Tariq before I went to Medina, so I don't know if he forgot that time before, but you know, alhamdulillah, it is a huge blessing. Wallahi, I don't know how to express enough how excited. I know it doesn't seem like it, but for me it's still kind of early on a Sunday, right? So I don't seem as excited, but before I was given the bushra, the good news of me being able to join this journey, you know, when I first heard about it, the word that came to my mind was perfect. Like, this is a perfect opportunity with a beautiful group of people led by a beautiful person going to the most beautiful of places, right? Literally, that was the word, perfect. And there was a little bit of healthy jealousy that I wouldn't be able to make this journey. Because like Shaykh Tariq mentioned, alhamdulillah, Allah gave me the blessing of living in Medina for a certain number of years. And leaving was not easy. And even now being here, you know, like I was telling Sister Juhi, that if you live in a place, you know, the Arabs, they say if you live in a place for more than 4 years, that's considered your home as well. So Medina, there's no doubt, is my home, just like it's the home of everyone here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it our home, right? It's the home of every single believer. So you have a connection to it. But the fact that I wasn't able to go, even though I was there not too long ago, but just thinking about Medina, thinking about going back to make Umrah, it was difficult, you know, because there's a longing in the heart for it. And if anyone's been there, they understand that. And for those even who haven't been there, there's a certain longing, there's a certain aura around the cities of Mecca and Medina. And the fact, like Shaykh Tariq mentioned, you know, the whole invitation thing, I don't want to, you know, put too much emphasis on that because he covered it beautifully. But that is exactly what it is. And think about, you know, like Shaykh Tariq mentioned, you were invited by Allah, but think about why. Why? What is there that you are looking for? What is there that you have inside of you? What is there that you need that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invited you to His home? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invited you to make this beautiful journey with this beautiful group of people. Right? And so I'm extremely honored to be able to be with this group, to be able to accompany this group, to be able to serve this group. And like I told Sister Julie, wallahi, this is not an exaggeration, but from now, or from before when I was announced, but from now that you all know, that you all who are at home and watching this know, that me and Shaykh Tariq and Shaykh Ali, we are a waqf for you. We are an endowment for you, meaning that our time belongs to you. Alhamdulillah, we've been able to make Umrah. We've lived, like he said, in those lands. So for us, for me, this journey is for you. That my time belongs to you. And even if that means at 3 in the morning you call and say, hey, I'm trying to decide between this type of date and that type of date, because there's a lot of dates there, right? And you're going to want to bring a lot home. That's what we're there for, right? That's what we're there for, to serve you and to be with you. So I'm going to leave it at that, right? Because I think you can benefit a lot more from Shaykh Tariq and Shaykh Ali. But that's why I'm here. I'm very excited, and I belong to you. So, Sheikh, I'm going to now bring another one of my closest friends who I did meet in Medina, unlike Shaykh Tariq. But he's someone that is very dear to me, like Shaykh Tariq is, and very excited to also be able to go. You know, me and Shaykh Tariq and Shaykh Ali, we've made Umrah together, you know, where it's a 4-hour car ride from Medina to Mecca. But this, I feel like this is going to be with all of you, you know, with the blessing of being with your families and us together is going to be maybe the most special of the umrahs that we make together.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah. I firstly want to begin by thanking Muhsen for inviting me. And something that comes to mind, and I'll be honest, is when I first made Umrah, and this was a few years ago, I thought that I wasn't ready to make Umrah. Sorry. And it's difficult for me because it's a bit emotional to be invited again to make Umrah. And Tariq and Umar know that for a while I've been trying to go and to visit Medina again, visit Mecca again. So to get this opportunity to go, let alone it being for Umrah, for Muhsen is a big thing. But to be able to go to serve kids who are forgotten in the community and things like that, it's just so much more of an honor. And what comes to mind is hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says that for you to go and help your brother fulfill something is more beloved to him ﷺ than doing i'tikaf in the masjid for 40 days. And for us to be able to go and to perform Umrah and to help these kids that are kind of neglected in our community is a big deal for me. And I apologize for getting a little emotional, but the feelings are raw, and I appreciate Shaykh Tariq and Shaykh Umar and Muhsen for inviting me, and Jazakumullahu khairan.
Takes a lot to get me in my feels. Now Ali got me in my feels. I don't like you, Ali. It's not meant to happen in public. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So as you can tell, we do have a beautiful lineup of brothers and sisters. And honestly, while as of this moment we may be the quote-unquote face of Muhsen that's sitting in front of you right now, the true leaders of Muhsen are the unsung heroes, the brothers and sisters, the volunteers, Sister Faryad, Brother Ayman, and so many others, Brother Salman, who's somehow contributing from India right now over WhatsApp. It's like, bro, relax, you're in India, okay? And yet, subhanAllah, they are proactive and they are always behind the scenes when it comes to Umrah efforts. Even right now next to me, I wonder if she's actually going to sign this, Sister Lojayn, who's not even joining us for the Umrah trip this year, but is coming forward and coming to help and serve. So truly Muhsen is representative of the best of us and the best of actions. And of course, if we were to begin to talk about Sister Juhi and her husband and their family and what they mean to Muhsen and what they mean to the Muhsen Umrah trip, the conversation won't end. The conversation will not end. So I just want to take a moment and ask each and every single one of you, please do remember all of these volunteers in your dua and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts from them these efforts and allows it to be a means of great reward for them. When Shaykh Umar and Shaykh Ali were talking and I was looking at them and I was looking around the room and I thought about the so many of you that are sitting behind your screens and like little children, subhanAllah, were anxiously just desiring to finally be there and living these moments. I think one of the things that I processed beyond the reality of being invited and beyond the reality of why are we invited is asking ourselves, what do we want to do with this invitation? If we've been invited and Allah's invited us, then what do we want to do with this invitation? And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invites His servants, there is nothing that He wants more than to hear the servant speak to Him, than to see the servant worship Him, than to observe the servant drawing nearer to Him. And as a person who has family members, who has relatives, who has loved ones, who do have special needs, I know that so often Our family members and our loved ones with special needs, they often may serve, in all technicality perhaps, as a complication or as an obstacle standing in the way. But so beautiful it becomes when these relatives of ours, when these friends of ours, when these family members of ours with special needs move from being an obstacle to now become a facilitation of guidance for us. That now because of this person in my life, I worship Allah better. That because of this person in my life, I pray to Allah better. Because of this person in my life, I'm visiting the most holy lands, doing the most holy actions. This is the perspective we have to come with. And that's something that's easy for us to say right now, but you'll see the reality of that manifesting itself when we go ahead and we're walking through the streets of Mecca and Medina together, insha'Allah ta'ala. I'm going to go through a little bit of the itinerary together and just kind of highlight the plan, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, and doing some markings, if you will, of just some of the moments to really pause and ponder on, insha'Allah ta'ala. The first thing is that we'll prepare to depart on December 30th, insha'Allah. Now, you may be asking yourself, Tariq, what should I pack? You, Shaykh Umar and Shaykh Ali, you guys have been there and done that, alhamdulillah, what should I pack? The first thing that I'll tell you to pack is a sound heart. Pack a sound heart. Pack a heart that is pure. Pack a heart that is in a good place with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I mean by that is not to be sinless, because none of us are sinless. What I mean by that is not to have no battle scars, because too many of us have battle scars from the journeys of life. What I mean by that is prepare to be visiting the house of Allah. Clear your heart from any animosity and any diseases of the heart that may stand between you and Allah. Wallahi al-azim, that you're worried about the weight of your luggage in this dunya, but worry about the weight of the sins on your shoulder. You're worried about whether you're going to be able to check in that bag, but we need to worry about us checking in our hearts into the city of the Prophet ﷺ and into the city of Mecca. So being able to revisit and check the status of our heart with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sit with yourself and prepare your hearts. Prepare your heart for this journey. Just like you're preparing your passport, just like you're preparing the paperwork, prepare your book of deeds with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Begin to invest in, wallahi, this is a reminder for myself, begin to invest in yourself now. That if you were not praying Qiyamul Layl before, that begin to pray at least 2 rak'at of Qiyamul Layl a night. That if you were not giving money for the sake of Allah before, that begin to at least give $1 every day until we leave for Umrah. That if you were not spiritually preparing yourself to develop a stronger relationship with the Quran, then to begin to read the Quran now, so that when you go to the Masjid al-Nabawi, you already know what it's like to engage with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a consistent basis. Don't wait for the moment. You're going to hear me say this a million times during Umrah. Don't wait for the moment. Create the moment. I can't tell you, my brothers and sisters, the countless times that I've sat with people who've come for Umrah, and they break down to me sometimes, subhanAllah, tragically in the last day of their Umrah trip. And they say, Tariq, I haven't shed a tear yet. Tariq, I haven't felt it yet. Tariq, I'm struggling right now. Tariq, the iman is not there. I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. So I went to one of my teachers, and I told him, Shaykh, you know, they're saying they're waiting, but they haven't found it. He said, that's the problem. He said, do not wait for the moment with Allah. Create the moment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Facilitate the moment with Allah. Condition your heart to be prepared to be in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and in the presence of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is huge. And again, you're going to hear me say that a million times, to create the moment as opposed to waiting for the moment. So again, we will depart. And I want to ask each and every single one of you, and this is going to be hard for us who are caregivers, for those with special needs, or for those of us who are mothers or fathers, is you go to this place for your spouse. You go to this place for your parents, right? You know what I'm talking about by going to these places for your parents, right? No, this is a trip that I want you to do for you. This is a trip that I want you to take for you. Mother at home, father at home, son at home. You've done too much for others. You may be taking them with you, but I want this journey to be for you. I want this to be a journey of your heart and nobody else's. They may be a part of your journey, yes. We will serve them at every second of this journey, absolutely. But this journey is yours to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There may be other passengers, but this is yours. So we need to remember the status of ourselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what that means is contextualize your intention. You're going to hear me say another phrase after don't wait for the moment, create the niyyah, create the moment. You're going to hear me say that a lot, but another phrase you're going to hear me say a lot is jaddidun niyyat, is renew your intentions. Revive your intentions. Renew your intentions and revive your intentions, because by renewing and reviving our intentions, we'll place our heart where it is meant to be. That we are here for Allah, that we're drinking for Allah, we're eating for Allah, we're reading for Allah, we're standing for Allah, we're sitting for Allah, we're crying for Allah, we're laughing for Allah. And when you go on a journey like this for a week long or 8 days long for Allah, don't think that when you go that far for Allah, that Allah won't go that far for you. That Allah will go just as far for you, and even more. Because of the hadith Qudsi that we all know, that if you walk to Allah, brother, I don't care if you're able to walk or not able to walk. Your heart is always able to walk to Allah, even if your body can't. So if you walk to Allah in spirit, Allah will come forward to you, inshaAllah ta'ala. That being said, now that we've talked about rejuvenating the hearts, you'll get on a plane, and your heart and your soul and your body will now transfer, via, Turkish Airlines? Is it Turkish Airlines? I love Turkish Airlines. They always give you a nice little Turkish delight thing at the beginning of the trip. You get on the plane, and inshallah ta'ala will fly to Turkey. You'll be seeing myself, Shaykh Umar, and Shaykh Ali, as well as the Muhsen team, and they'll all be wearing Muhsen gear to make sure that you can recognize them. By now you should have been introduced to your caregivers. And then we'll be gathering together, inshallah ta'ala, in Turkey. We have brothers who are in other cities across the nation, sisters, young ones and old alike, who are in different parts of the nation. We'll be meeting together, and we'll have our first Muhsen reunion of the uniting of the hearts of those going on this Muhsen Umrah family trip together in Turkey. We'll be meeting in Turkey, we'll be boarding another plane, and we'll be going, inshaAllah ta'ala, flying into the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And let me tell you, brothers, they're gone now, so I can have a little bit of an emotional moment. The heart does not find the words to speak about Medina. One of the most beautiful experiences that a heart can experience is when you're sitting in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ and you're in prayer, and you say At-tahiyyatu lillahi was-salawatu wa-tayyibat, and you say greetings and blessings be upon you, O Allah, and the best of prayers, and then you get to Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi, and you say peace and blessings be upon you, O Prophet of Allah, and he's literally just feet steps away from you, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. His grave is literally right there. And the best of creation, who walked this earth, who lived his life standing and remembering us in his prayers, is right there, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we're walking where he walked, and we're worshipping where he worshipped, and we're laughing where he laughed, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Brothers and sisters, it does not get more beautiful than that. Brothers and sisters, to be in the place that the Prophet ﷺ called Ad-Dar. That if you've never visited Medina, that if you've never been to Medina, you may have never felt at home in another place. You may feel super cozy and comfortable in your home. But I remember walking through the streets of Medina with a brother and being like, I thought I felt like Chicago was home. And Chicago is, Shy City, my city, like Chicago's home. But he said, Wallahi, now I know what it means to be home. Because Medina is home. Medina is a home that you may have never been to before, but your heart will find a peace there that it's never felt before. And all of the things that you've experienced in life, you'll begin to heal from perhaps the ups and downs of life in a way that you never even imagined possible. In the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when we talk about Medina and we talk about the beauty of Medina and the virtue of Medina, the conversation cannot start today and it won't end today. But if there's one thing that it's known, it is that it is called Tayyibah. And in another name, it's called Taba. It is the place where things are purified and beautified. It is where they gain their beautification, if you will. And that is what will happen to us in Medina. That we will be able to, by being in the presence of the best of generations, by being in the presence of the best of company, by being that close to the Prophet ﷺ, by being close to Al-Baqiyah, right? And where can we even start about Al-Baqiyah? Where the people of so many, where over 10,000 Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ are buried, where we will be close to the garden of Jannah, Riyadul Jannah, Al-Rawda, where we will be in that place which is a garden from the gardens of Jannah that the Prophet ﷺ talked about. And the list goes on and on, where we will be standing in the battlefield of Badr, where the angels came down from above the heavens to witness Badr. One of the great scholars, he said, if you were to go back in the books of history and wish to live on 2 days, if you were to go back in the books of history, and Allah had allowed you to live on 2 other days, that you would wish to live on 2 days. The day that the Prophet ﷺ entered Medina, the day that the Prophet ﷺ entered Medina, and the day of Badr. That if you were to have wished to live on 2 days, that you would have wished to live on the day that the Prophet ﷺ entered into Medina. Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said the day that the Prophet ﷺ entered Medina, the world was illuminated. And inshallah ta'ala, we will go together and we will greet the Prophet ﷺ, and we will go ahead and begin our journey of being in Medina. We've allowed it to be that the first day in Medina, that January 1st is a down day, that it's a day of recovery, that it's a day of just resting, that it's a day of us getting to know one another, that sitting with one another, greeting one another, getting accustomed to where we are and what we're doing. Shaykh Umar and I and Shaykh Ali will be there at your service, inshaAllah ta'ala, each and every step of the way. And we will then go on and begin to pray in Al-Masjid al-Nabawi. We'll begin to pray our prayers in Al-Masjid al-Nabawi. And again, these are conversations that we will have time and time again. But to be able to pray with the Prophet ﷺ, with being in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, in a place where the Prophet ﷺ said that a salah in this masjid, and he called it my masjid, salatun fi masjidi hada, fi masjidi Rasulillah ﷺ, is khayrun min alfi salatin fi ma siwa. That it is better than 1,000 salawat in any other masjid. Brothers and sisters, we cut short. Sometimes because of that son of ours or that daughter of ours, sometimes because of running late for work, sometimes because of other reasons, sometimes because of traffic. Our salawat, our prayers, they take a hit. Sometimes khushu'-wise, sometimes in many ways. The most beautiful thing is praying one prayer that's equal to 1,000 and feeling that burden that sits on our hearts being lifted away. So really recognizing the status of that. And that is why one of the advices that I can perhaps give to myself is sometimes when we're there, because we're travelers, we get that jet lag feeling, especially when you're with other people and their jet lag is even worse than yours, it starts to hold you back, is that we need to invest in getting into the masjid early. There's an adhan time. Don't wait to hear for the adhan in the hotel room. Brother and sister, try to hear the adhan inside of the masjid. Sitting inside of the masjid and waiting for the iqamah to go off. And planning your day accordingly. Sometimes we lose sight of where we are. I remember one time being with a Hajj group. And people are talking about, I remember, subhanAllah, seeing a sister inside of the group, and she was sitting at the front desk of the hotel. And she was sitting there from Asr till Isha, trying to allow her room to change to be a Kaaba view. And at one point in time, I had to go and be like, sister, can I talk to you like you're my real sister? Can I be honest with you for a second? She said, yeah. I said, you just missed Asr and Maghrib and Isha in the masjid. You want to be able to see the Kaaba from your room. You can go down and be sitting in front of the Kaaba and remembering Allah. So what's important to remember is all of these things are a wasila. They are a means to the goal. Throughout this trip, Shaitan will try to distract your heart. Shaitan will try to allow you to lose sight. But remember that even I, even Shaykh Umar, even Shaykh Ali, even Sister Julie, even the rest of the Muhsen staff, we are a means to the goal. What is the goal? What is your goal, my brother? What is your goal, my sister? My goal and your goal is an accepted Umrah with Allah. Is an accepted Umrah with Allah that allows us to leave with all of our sins forgiven, all of our minor sins forgiven, at the very least. That is the goal. Everything else, the food and the buffets, the transportation, the travel, the bedding, the room status, how many beds you have, all of that is just a means to the goal. It's just a part of the journey to Allah. So recognizing that. So again, we'll check into Medina, and I don't want to go for too long discussing the logistical implications of it, but we'll go to Medina, we'll spend time together, we'll shop together, we'll grab some bites together. Of course, we'll always be doing breakfast together as a family, and I want you to know from now that you have family members that you haven't met yet. Some of them are sitting behind screens, some of them are in this room with us, some of them are across the nation, some of them in Florida, some of them in New York, some of them in Houston. But the minute we land there, we become family. And you will find me using no other term but family. So embracing that when that sister needs a chair, you're going to give that chair because that's your sister. When that person needs a cup of water, you're going to go and get them that cup of water. When that person needs you to smile, you're going to smile in their face. When that person needs to be calmed down and comforted, you're going to give that to them because we are family. And that is the reality of living the prophetic tradition of being one Muslim family together to each and every one. And that's something that we each need to kind of begin to prepare our hearts to be, that to look at one another as family. We'll be visiting museums together, inshallah ta'ala. One of the goals that Shaykh Umar and Shaykh Ali and I have is to go through the seerah, to go through the journey of the Prophet ﷺ while we're in Medina and walking where he walked, talking about the different experiences that they had. You know, one of the most unreal experiences is one time walking with one of my teachers in Masjid Nabawi and reciting to him. And reaching a place and sitting down, I was like, Shaykh, why did you choose here? We've never sat here together. And he said, Tariq, right now, you're sitting where it was the house of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And I just remember shutting down, just crying like a baby. Like, I'm sitting in the house of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. This is where Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the one who the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you were to put all of the iman of the ummah on one side and the iman of Abu Bakr on another side, that the iman of Abu Bakr would outweigh. I'm sitting in his house. This is where Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu's window was. This is where the Prophet ﷺ made sujood. This is where Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to reside. This is where Salman al-Farisi radiallahu ta'ala anhu spoke about such and such. This is where these things took place. And the hearts, they begin to connect with a people that are no longer living, but their memories are living with us. And when we connect to the people of Allah, we then begin to connect to Allah. I'll say that again. When we connect to the people of Allah, we then begin to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. So just beginning to realize that, again, we'll be visiting museums, we'll be praying in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, we'll be doing what we call mazarat. Mazarat is when we visit, for example, Masjid Quba, which is the first masjid of Islam. We'll be visiting Masjid al-Qiblatayn. Again, we'll be visiting where the Battle of Badr took place. And we'll be going and visiting these places and getting spiritual, not only historical context, but spiritual context of these places. And connecting it with our individual lives, inshaAllah ta'ala. After that, inshaAllah ta'ala, we'll be continuing our journey after spending a few days in Medina. We'll be getting on a bus, you know, that magic school bus. We'll be getting on a bus, it's better than magic school bus, inshallah. We'll be getting on that bus, inshallah. And some of you may be wondering, hold up. This guy is talking about a lot of fluff. This guy is talking about a lot of different things. But what about the fiqh of Umrah? Brothers and sisters, rest assured, we'll be going through the fiqh of Umrah together. The how-tos of Umrah, the how-to-nots of Umrah, the what-to-dos of Umrah, the what-to-not to do for Umrah. Each and every step of the way, we'll be explaining what you need to do in order to allow your Umrah to be accepted. What do you need to say when you enter the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ? What do you need to read when you go into these places? What should you be saying? What should you be feeling? How should you be acting when you go to these places? That is a journey that we will be taking together, inshallah ta'ala. So rest assured, don't stress it. Oftentimes we stress these things. How will I wear the ihram? You know, I can't tell you the countless times I've been in the Movenpick hotel that we'll be staying in Medina, and in the middle of the Movenpick buffet line, showing somebody how to put on an ihram. You know, if there's one thing that I'm proud of, I'm an ihram expert. You know, so don't worry. For brothers, that's a big deal. Ain't nobody trying to have the ihram fall in the middle of Umrah, you know. So understanding these things, don't worry about it. We'll be taking care of these things together, inshaAllah ta'ala. Bismillah. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad. After that, we'll get on this bus together. You know what's funny is that I'm already dreading the moment of saying farewell to the Prophet ﷺ and to Medina. My God, this is ridiculous. and beginning that journey to go to Mecca, inshallah ta'ala. And again, the conversation from Mecca, it neither begins nor ends. It's sufficient to say that when the Prophet ﷺ left Mecca, he turned back and he looked to Mecca. He looked back to his hometown of Mecca. And he said, "Indeed, you are the most beloved of lands to me. You are my favorite of places in my heart. You are of that status to me." He's talking about Mecca. So he's showing the status of Mecca. Then he turns and he faces Medina and he supplicates, "Ya Allah, allow Medina to become equally beloved to me or more." So it shows the status of Mecca. That there is no place that is more beautiful than Mecca. That there is no place that is more holy than Mecca. And oftentimes people say, "But Medina is where we live it up. Medina is where the heart finds peace." But you know, what doesn't break you only makes you stronger. And Mecca is a spiritual conditioning that is completely different from Medina. That I remember sitting in one of those buffets. This is a sister who had that all-star Hajj package. And she's sitting with me in the Fairmont, pinky up, and we're sipping on tea, and we're living it up in the Fairmont, and we have a Kaaba view from every window that is a window. And she said, "My heart, it feels pain." And I said, "Let me tell you something. Let me ask you something, sister. Do you ever work out? Do you ever build muscle?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Does it hurt?" She said, "Yes." I said, "This is your heart hurting as it gets stronger in its relationship with Allah." So there is what feels good in the journey to Allah, but there is also what hurts. And there is also the majesty, the majestic, and the awe, and the elements of perhaps spiritual conditioning that we will find in Mecca. It's very real when you're going around the Kaaba. Oftentimes when we talk about what it means to be in the Kaaba, I remember one of the first times I did Umrah, and a lot of times you guys are going to ask these questions. I'm trying to cut those questions short right now. You guys will be saying, "What do I do when I make tawaf?" And again, rest assured, in every step of your tawaf, in every step of your sa'i, in every wheelchair push, in every guided moment, Shaykh Umar and Shaykh Ali and myself will be there, inshaAllah ta'ala, as well as the rest of the Muhsen team. I remember I was sitting with this teacher, and I was like, "Shaykh, I noticed that Umrah has a lot of downtime. There's a lot of downtime for Umrah. All you're trying to say, and I'm not trying to trivialize it, is all you're trying to say is between, you get to the black stone, you say such and such. And if you want, between this corner and this corner, you say such and such. And if you want, when you're on top of Safa, you say such and such. And if you want, when you're on top of Marwa, you say such and such." And I was like, "Shaykh, what if I say none of those things? And I only say what I need to say?" He said, "Tariq, your Umrah is accepted." I was like, "Shaykh, what's the point of all of this then?" He said, "One of the first things that you want to realize when you're a guest of Allah, that Allah has brought you here to hear you." I'm going to say that again. When you come for Umrah, Allah's handing you the mic. Allah wants to hear what you have to say. Allah wants to hear what resides within your heart. That heartbreak, that disappointment, those journeys of pain, that difficulty that you experienced, those moments of happiness, those accomplishments that you're celebrating, that degree that you've gotten, that marriage that you have, that child that you celebrate. All of these things, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to hear from you. So one of my teachers, he said something to me. He said, "Umrah is a piece of cake." He said, "For you, Tariq, we don't want you to be having that cake, so change it to something else." I was like, "Shaykh, why you gotta do me like that? That's messed up, So I told him it's a carb-free cake, well, we'll compromise, But he said it's a walk in the park. Wallahi. The Umrah is as easy as it can get. That we'll be taking this journey in which, for example, I'll give you guys a breakdown. For me, tawaf is simple. Tawaf is 7 times around the Kaaba. And again, don't worry about the logistics. We'll walk you through it, each and every single one together, inshallah ta'ala, hand in hand. Just make sure you don't pull my ihram off. But what we're doing in each and every step, right? The first tawaf for me is praising and thanking Allah. Ya Allah, I thank you for my mama. I thank you for my daddy. I thank you for my health. I thank you for Islam. I thank you for allowing me to be here even though I don't deserve to be here. I thank you for the people that are just an entire tawaf of shukr. An entire tawaf of shukr. And you're going to be starting out like me. Wallahi, sometimes I start slowing down because I'm not done with my shukr. I still have a lot to be thankful for. Then the second tawaf is salawat. And don't worry, if some of you I see you're taking notes, don't worry, we'll give this to you inshallah. We'll write this up for you, but that's our job. Second tawaf is salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. When you're saying salawat, think about screenshots from the seerah. Think about moments from the seerah. Like, think about him doing tawaf with Umar and Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhum. Think about him being in the presence of his wives. Think about him laughing and smiling the entire time you're doing tawaf and you're saying salawat in that second tawaf. Go and relive moments with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Third tawaf, I'm only giving you guys this as a sample. Third tawaf, I'm usually making dua for my family. And we all know what's happening within our families, the difficulties, the challenges that we face with our families, the obstacles that we go through. I make that one for my family. Fourth one, I make dua for the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our brothers and sisters in the Za'atari camps, our brothers and sisters in Yemen, our brothers and sisters across Somalia and Niger and Mali, our brothers and sisters in the streets of Chicago and in Michigan and Detroit, our brothers and sisters in New York and California and Florida, our brothers and sisters of faith. Make dua for them. This is the fourth one for them. The fifth one is you make dua for humanity. To know that there are people who wake up each and every single day, that their happiness and success is dependent on the du'as of the likes of you and I, standing in the most holy of places, doing the most holy of actions. And the sixth one, and the sixth tawaf for me, this is my favorite one, I call this the mic drop. This is the one where I say whatever remains in my heart. Those personal struggles, those individual battles, those things that lie within the heart, that you let it out. You take that heart, the heart, as Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he describes it as a vessel. You take that vessel out and you pour it out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you will leave nothing remaining in your heart. And the last tawaf, we started with shukr. We started with thanks to Allah. There's no better way to end the conversation except with shukr again. With thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is just tawaf. This is just tawaf. And again, the conversation about sa'i and the 2 rak'at, there's so much that can be said about this. But we will be with you again each and every single step of the way. And we'll be guiding, inshallah ta'ala, you to the best of our abilities. Sa'i, I'll just give you a little bit. For me, sa'i is fun. Sa'i is reciting my favorite surahs. Sa'i is running and saying astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah for the time I said this, astaghfirullah for the time I did this, astaghfirullah for the time I did this. And you'll be sort of, man, Tariq, I didn't know Tariq can run like that. And you'll be looking at, and wallahi, literally when I run between the 2 green lights, it's more of a jog, but we'll call it a run, right? When I'm doing that, I'm literally imagining myself doing something. One of my teachers, he said, imagine yourself running away from a life of disobedience to a life of obedience. From a life of sinfulness to a life of obedience. From a life of being away from Allah. You're running to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now. That is what happens between Safa and Marwa. That we stand, this, my dear brothers and sisters, this is where Hajar ran. This, my dear brothers and sisters, this is where the angel came and hit the floor and allowed the gushing waters of Zamzam to rise that you will be drinking from. That is where that took place. This is where our father Ibrahim a.s., this is where he stood up and he said, Ya Allah, allow me and my progeny to be amongst those who establish prayer. This is where that took place. You and I, inshaAllah, will be standing there, reliving those moments ourselves. So processing the reality of that situation, and living those moments and beginning to prepare our hearts from now to be in that experience, inshaAllah ta'ala. Then some of us will go, and with the few hairs that we have on our head, we'll go ahead, I'm talking about myself here again, we'll shave off whatever remains, Ya Allah, replenish them and replace them. And I'm just giving you guys a hard time. And again, we'll go, and those of us who need to trim our hair, again, the fiqh of Umrah, don't worry about it. Again, we'll be telling you the what to do and the what not to do, and the how to do and how not to do, each and every single step of the way. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll go and we'll get out of the state of ihram. We'll be getting out of the state of ihram, and it's important to know that ihram is 2 things. As one of our teachers, he said, Shaykh Mukhtar, he said, ihram is a clothing you wear, but beyond that, ihram is a state of the mind and the heart. So don't get stuck on the external and focus on the internal that's also taking place. So again, we'll be getting out of the internal and external state of ihram, inshallah ta'ala. And we'll go and we'll grab some good food. There's some good halal burger places that we're going to hit up, inshallah. And we'll go and we'll grab some food together. And we'll spend a few days in Mecca together, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, worshipping in the greatest houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm done. I've had too many emotional moments with you guys. Alhamdulillah, Ali and Umar were not here. But we'll be in that place where every salah is 100,000 salawat. It's like Allah wants you to say is, it's like Allah wants us to reach a place where His love for us is too overwhelming for us to process. You know what I mean? Like it's like, you know when somebody gives you so much that you become speechless and you become embarrassed? That's what Umrah feels like. So that is what we will begin to find, inshallah ta'ala, throughout this journey. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala. I promised myself that I wasn't going to go beyond half an hour, and I don't know where it stands, but again, there's so much more that can be said and perhaps that should be said, but I would like to just really take a moment to thank you. On behalf of myself, on behalf of Muhsen, and particularly on behalf of myself and Shaykh Umar and Shaykh Ali. And even last week I met Shaykh Umar Sulaiman and the founder of Muhsen in Houston, and he looked at me and he said, this man right here, he's about to experience something, and he just kept smiling and laughing. So this is something that is God chosen. This is something that is divinely presented to us. And I really want to really thank each and every single one of you and ask that you make dua that this journey becomes a reality for us. That this journey becomes a moment of closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we all know where we lie with Allah, that this journey brings us forward closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to what He loves. And we hope and pray that those of you who, subhanAllah, like I'm gonna be real with you, this is the last thing. You know, one of the most heartbreaking things is when you serve people with Muhsen. I remember I went to Salat al-Eid in Naperville one time, and we always have a special room for people with special needs and their families to celebrate them. And I remember entering the room and an auntie coming up to me, I don't remember if Sister Ju here remembered this, and she came and she hugged me. And we all know I ain't trying to get hugged by an auntie. And she came and she hugged me, and wallahi, she was breaking down. She said, today is the first day that my family and I have prayed in a masjid in 10 years. 10 years we haven't prayed inside of a masjid. She said, because the last time we came, somebody told their children to stay away from my child because they might have a jinn in them or shaitan in them. And I was just like, she said, we haven't come to the masjid since 10 years. She said, thank you for what Muhsen does. I pointed at Sister Julia and Sister Firyan. I said, these are the people who make it happen. These are the unsung heroes behind the scenes who make it happen. So I know that many of you have a journey with spirituality that feels like it clashes perhaps with the reality of your circumstances. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not test a people. Wallah, I'm speaking directly to you. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not test the people except to show His immense divine love for them. And here's an opportunity for Allah to really allow us to feel that love by being in His most sacred home. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be present there. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to pray in the most holy of places. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be amongst those who make tawaf around the Kaaba. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who do sa'i between Safa and Marwa. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be amongst those who laugh where the beloved laughed, who cry where the beloved cried, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that with the mountains of sins that stand between us and Him, that these mountains of sins do not stand as a barrier between us and visiting His most sacred home. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the countless shortcomings that we have, with the many prayers that perhaps we have missed, with the many opportunities of doing good that we have missed, that they do not stand as a barrier and an obstacle between us and visiting His most sacred home. We thank you, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the people in our lives. We thank you, Ya Allah, for the opportunity in our lives. And we ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gather us in the best of gatherings in the presence of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the highest of Jannah. Wa akhir da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. I'm trying to get out of here. Sister Juhi is not letting me go. But I want to ask, I want to open up the forum for questions and answers. When it comes to fiqh questions and answers, we'll keep that for when we're together on the trip. Just take it for brevity purposes. Inshallah, anything with regards to fiqh, the how-tos, the details, we'll keep that. But of course, the door is always open. And now we have a WhatsApp group. So feel free to message inside of the WhatsApp group, inshallah ta'ala. I want to open up the forum for questions and answers from them for those of you who are live and present here with us physically, inshallah ta'ala. Any questions? It'll be really strange if there are no questions, especially with Umrah. Umrah, usually the session goes for 45 minutes and the question and answer goes for an hour and 45 minutes. So this is so feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Yes.
Can you give us some tips maybe for how to have khushu during our ibadah and all? Just a short synopsis.
Are you talking about, brother asked a beautiful question with regards to finding khushu and beginning to plant the seeds of khushu. Are you talking about from now? Or when we're there?
Especially when we are there.
When we are there, preparing the heart from before the action. Preparing the heart from before the action, that's something that Shaykh Umar and Shaykh Ali and I are very keen on, is facilitating a preparation of the soul for where the body is going. Does that make sense? So what that means is before we go for salah, Imam Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was known to be found with his hands shivering as he was making wudu. And when he was asked as to why that is, he said, I'm preparing to stand in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does that make sense? So preparing to be in the presence. Beginning to understand where we're headed before we go there. This is one. Number two is being with a people that facilitate it. Being in the presence of a people that facilitate it. And number three is distancing yourselves from the reality of the temporary dunya that we're in. Brothers and sisters, put the rest of your life on hold. I told you that this trip is not for anybody else, that this trip is for you. Put your phone on airplane mode and keep it on airplane mode. If your work requires you to go online for an hour, go online for an hour. But do not allow that. Do not allow the engagement of this dunya to stand in the way of an engagement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So distance yourself from the reality of this dunya. And live in the reality. So distancing yourself from this dunya by disconnecting from it to the best of your ability. And number one is preparing yourself for an occasion before it arises. And number three was what? Does anybody remember? What was it? Come on. Being amongst the people that facilitate the spiritual uplifting. Being with the people that facilitate that, inshallah ta'ala. So these are just some tips that we can have, inshallah ta'ala. Very good question. What is that? Any other questions? Yes, sister.
I'm not attending this Muhsen Umrah. I really wish I was, but inshallah next year.
Inshallah.
But just a general question. I know that when you go for Hajj, you have to go do Hajj yourself before you can do Hajj for anybody else. Are there any rules like that for Umrah? Are you able, like, if you have never been to Umrah before, can you, or should you go as a volunteer, or should you go for yourself first and then go, or can you do both? How does that work?
If you go to, the sister's asking a very wonderful question with regards to doing Umrah or Hajj for somebody else before you've done it for yourself. If you are going as a volunteer for Muhsen, for example, or whatever the case may be, you are still doing Umrah for yourself, or you can still be doing Umrah for yourself. You are serving other people. And one thing that all of us who serve know, and we ask Allah to accept from us the little efforts we've done, is that our own experience becomes better by serving, subhanAllah, right? And that's barakah. That's literally barakah. That's blessings upon blessings. So, when it comes to the fiqh of the matter, can you make intention to do Umrah for somebody that's perhaps unable to do Umrah, or somebody that perhaps has passed away and returned to Allah? Before you've done Umrah for yourself, you can do a Umrah for yourself in one trip, and in that same trip, you can then break out of the state of Ihram, go to the miqat, enter the state of Ihram again, and then go back and perform Umrah. Another Umrah for this other individual. But yes, it is from within our tradition that a person does a Umrah and a Hajj for themselves before they do a Umrah or Hajj for another person. However, if you're coming as a volunteer, you can come as a volunteer for Muhsen or for any other organization and be serving the masses while still be performing a Umrah for yourself. There's no contradiction between those two. Very beautiful question, mashallah. Any other questions? Any other? Saqib, you gonna do this to me right now? Yeah.
Can you give us some tips about the whole photo thing, selfies? I know you might
Very beautiful thing. So I think that, am I about to go on a long tangent about social media? No, even though it's very tempting.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh yeah, very good, Jazakallah khairan. The question is with regards to selfies and Snapchat and, alright, we're doing tawaf right now, okay, let's take that Kaaba selfie, now we're about, okay, Safa selfie, Marwa selfie, in between green light selfie, you know, like, all these things, it's non-stop. You know, a lot of times, and I don't mean to sound cliche, we're checking our status on social media, but we don't realize that we're jeopardizing our status with Allah in the process. So we're talking about, you know, our status and our news feed and our followers. these are all things that are beautiful at times, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what I want you to do is, we talked about disengaging from this dunya. Part of the disengagement from this dunya is allowing everything to happen in the right place, the right time, and the right manner. One of my teachers said something beautiful. He said the best action is the one done in the right time, the right place, and the right manner. What's funny is that this whole discussion about pictures and photography and videos is coming from Saqib, who's going as our AV guy. You know, he's going to be the guy recording. So it's kind of ironic, but what that's a testament to is it's not like, no, Allah, we will not be taking pictures. No, I'm going to get a fresh lineup beforehand so we can take some nice pictures. So that's not the discussion here. We will take pictures, and we'll enjoy the pictures, inshallah ta'ala. But when you're in a state of ihram, and you're making dua for your family, and you're going through the acts of worship, then we need to contextualize, is this a time where we need to be engaging? So really understand, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna call you guys out. Cell phones down, airplane mode. MashaAllah, everybody's plan now can be international plan. No. You're gonna put on airplane mode, we're gonna disengage from social media so that we can engage in a healthy conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll be kind of facilitating, you know what, this is a time when we'll be doing that, this is a time when we will be distancing ourselves from that, inshallah ta'ala. I remember, funny story, I'll end with this, I went to Umrah with my aunts, with Dar es Salaam as well, this past year, and we finished tawaf, and we're in ihram, we just finished tawaf, and we drank zamzam, and we prayed our 2 rak'at, it's a beautiful thing. Then I'm like, everybody's alhamdulillah good, everybody's phones are away, nobody's taking a selfie. And I told everybody, we're starting to walk to Safa and Marwa, we start walking, and I realized that my aunts, you know, my own relatives, I'm mahram for them, right? That they're far away, that they're nowhere to be seen. And then I look in a distance, and I see my aunt sneaking in a selfie, the 3 of them together, and I'm like, my God, oh my God. Only my aunts would do that to me, you know? So, subhanAllah, we love those moments, we want to cherish those moments, we just got to put them in the right time, inshallah.
Actually, just a week ago, you know, Saudi government just banned photos and selfies.
Well, we'll be staying away from discussing the Saudi government in any way, shape, or form, inshallah.
Time for salat.
Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.